Chris needs to stop babying Tammy on 1,000-pound sisters. 1,000-pound sisters originally centered around the weight loss journeys of Tammy and Amy Sladen. But now in its 6th season, the show has grown to include their 3 older siblings, Amanda Halterman, Misty Sladen, and Chris Combs, as they embark on their own weight loss journeys and help Tammy reacclimate to the real world after years of being housebound. From grocery shopping to keeping house and everything in between, their lives revolve around Tammy and caring for her. Unfortunately, this help has had the opposite effect on Tammy as she remains dependent on them, with Chris bearing the brunt of it. Chris is portrayed as the leader of the family as he helps keep the peace between the sisters and takes responsibility for Tammy's well-being. All of this devotion to Tammy's needs has held her back from gaining full independence while also affecting Chris's marriage to Brittany. For everyone's sake, this needs to end. Putting Tammy ahead of his wife has created arguments and disagreements that could spell doom if the babying doesn't stop. Chris needs to stop being Tammy's chauffeur. Chris is a loving brother and wants the best for Tammy as she struggles to regain her independence. He is constantly driving her around since she does not have her driver's license but has now taken it upon himself to teach her how to drive, even though Tammy is deathly afraid of getting behind the wheel. He planned an entire golf outing for the two of them in an attempt to get her to drive a golf cart. While ultimately successful, it proved to be a taxing endeavor as Tammy struggled to get over her fears and reiterated that she still didn't want to learn how to drive. The only way Tammy will understand the need for transportation is when transportation is no longer at her beck and call. What Chris needs to do is simply stop driving Tammy around. With Chris being Tammy's main chauffeur, he has also become her companion at her doctor's visits. With Chris being knowledgeable of all of Tammy's medical visits, he is now her main motivator and spokesperson. Purchasing her a gym membership and pushing her to ask more about skin removal surgery even when the doctor told her she was not ready yet. Tammy, on the other hand, continues to put up roadblocks for herself, refusing to allow the doctor to see Tammy's loose skin so he can assess whether she is ready for the surgery. Although it's evident that Chris believes he is advocating for Tammy, it continues to exacerbate the issue that Tammy cannot take responsibility for both her actions and solutions. Tammy needs to take responsibility for her own needs. Another issue has been Tammy's living situation. The fact that Chris went through the trouble of changing his plans and renovating an entire house for Tammy without her asking revealed just how much power Tammy has over Chris. This decision to take responsibility for Tammy's housing has put a significant strain on his marriage with Brittany as he hurries to get the house ready in time for Tammy to move in, changing the design plans Brittany originally had. The house is ultimately not finished in time and Chris decides to invite Tammy into his own home, further annoying Brittany, who now must live in close quarters with her ill-mannered sister-in-law. There's no reason for Tammy to become independent when her brother will simply do the work for her every time. Chris and Misty are the peacekeepers of the family as Tammy, Amy, and Amanda constantly fight over minuscule problems that explode into major blow-ups. Tammy's bickering with Amanda meant that Chris had another problem to solve for Tammy, as she refused to speak to her sister. Chris had to coach Tammy through the initial meeting with Amanda, hoping they would reconcile. Tammy is treated as though she cannot think for herself and requires hand-holding through any emotional distress. Through her dramatic weight loss, Tammy has made significant steps toward independence. After 6 seasons, it's been enough for both Chris and the viewers. It's now time for Chris to let Tammy continue this road toward full independence by allowing her to make her own decisions. Tammy is a grown woman and is capable of scheduling her own transportation, finding her own housing, and solving her own siblings' squabbles. Chris is a loving sibling and makes it clear that he will do everything for Tammy, but just because he can, doesn't mean he must.